Hi, I'm Postma, and I serve as the Executive Director for the Christian Reformed Church here in Canada. What does that mean anyway? Executive Director of the Christian Reformed Church in Canada? Well, part of my goal here today is to help you understand a little bit more about what this role means and what the structure of the CRC is. I'd really like to do two things with you, and one is to show you the larger structure that's bigger than just the CRCNA as an organization, and then go into a little bit more specifics about the CRC Canada, CRC US, and how we relate to one another. So a big piece is really understanding, when we're talking about the denomination, what do we mean? We have to talk about actually the denomination being the community of churches. So the community of churches would be you and me. I'm a member of a Christian Reformed church, so we are the denomination. We are part of this community of churches. But the CRC as a denomination is also a community of organizations. So I have this circle here where the community of churches. This is you. This is me. This is us here together. And then surrounding this community of churches is this community of organizations. I don't want you to look too closely at it because this is supposed to just give an idea. But so I just put the acronyms. But like WR is World Renew. So World Renew exists as both World Renew US, World Renew Canada, very, very tightly integrated. But it is two separate organizations, and they exist in a variety of ways all across the globe. Calvin University, Calvin Theological Seminary, and then since we're just being technical here, RF is Reframe Canada, Reframe US. They are separate legal entities within Canada and the US, although Reframe is very, very tightly integrated in to our denominational structure. And then there's the CRC Canada, technically the CRCNA Canada Corporation. And then there's the CRC US. So those are the two, and just to give you a little bit more of a sense, and we'll get into this, but when we're talking about these two working together, there are some Canadian specific ministries and US specific ministries, and then some of our shared collective ministries together that are cross-border or around the world, such as Resonate, Thrive, some of you have heard of Thrive, and Reframe. I know I talked about Reframe here, but again, we're very tightly integrated in with Reframe within our leadership structure as well. So this is sort of the very big picture view, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna drill in a little bit more into this spot here, okay? So this is what was. I'll make it really clear. This is what was, all right? So this does not exist anymore, and I'll tell you in a minute how this is different. But the basic gist was there's this Council of Delegates, which serves as technically an interim committee of synod, but functioned basically as the board for the Canadian and US ministries collectively. So that's why I have Council of Delegates with the boards inside of here. And that group oversaw the work of the Executive Director. That person oversaw all the ministries of the Christian Reformed Church. Now, in here, I also put Canadian Ministries Director. Now, this is one of the pieces that was a real contention and caused a lot of confusion and a lot of frustration. Is within here, there was a Canadian, the boards were not strongly differentiated from the Council of Delegates. And so they kind of existed in, but they did exist. And so this Canadian Ministries Director was kind of, you can look in the old job description of it, it literally said that this person reported to the Canadian board for some things and to the Executive Director for other things. So it was a split responsibility, because as a Canadian nonprofit charitable organization, it needed and needs an Executive Director type person to oversee the ministries. And so sometimes this person would serve directly reporting to the board, and sometimes this person would serve directly reporting to the Executive Director. The easiest way for me, as I've thought about this, is to think of the Canadian ministries, the Canadian specific ministries, as an agency of the Christian Reformed Church. So we have Resonate as an agency, we have Reframe as an agency, we have Thrive as an agency, and Canadian Ministries was like an agency itself. And so this person, the Canadian Ministries Director, would serve as the director of this agency which all reported to the executive director. Some of the frustration came up where it wasn't always clear in what cases or what times or in what way the person serving in this role would report to the board, and in what way around finances, around HR matters, those sort of things, in what way they report to the board, what way they reported to the executive director. What level of authority did the executive director of the denomination have over this space relative to the Canadian Ministries Director and the Canadian Board? It wasn't always clear. This here is what it is today. And one of the most important things to realize is this position, Canadian Ministries Director, does not exist anymore. So it is an executive director. And so you have the Canadian Board alongside, or rather, overseeing the work of an executive director who oversees the Canadian specific ministries and our joint ministries that we have with our partners, such as the US ministries. So in my role, I report directly to the board. I don't report to anyone else, and oversee all the ministries of the Christian Reformed Church that are part of the CRCNA. Just to give you a sense, here's the US board. The US board also has an executive leader. I put it in quotes because the technical title is US Director of Ministry Operations, but we basically have a lot of parallels together. And that person oversees any US specific ministries as well as the joint ministries that we have. And they really do deal with US specific things. Now this is me putting it all back together and then adding back the Council of Delegates. And I think it's really important for people to realize the Council of Delegates and the boards more and more have a clear sense of differentiated responsibility. The Council of Delegates working through ecclesial governance, and these boards working through organizational governance. So just to give you an example, the US board recently processed through the selling and the purchasing of a new ministry support center, a new denominational building in Grand Rapids. The Council of Delegates didn't have any specific say into that, and the Canadian board was not engaged. I mean, we were kept aware, and there was sought for advice and so on, but really it was the US board's decision alongside their executive leader to figure out what sort of building they need in the United States. The General Secretary serves the Council of Delegates, and so I put a dotted line here to just show that we have some really good ongoing partnership relationship because our ministries exist to serve you, to serve the churches of the CRC, and to expand the impact of the CRC. And one of the ways that we do that is by engaging in conversation and relationships ourselves, but also through the General Secretary and the Council of Delegates. So this is what it is now. I think it's actually working quite effectively. It's working quite well. There's a good sense of partnership. And yeah, that's what it looks like. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me, reach out to me in any way you want. Happy to share more at some point, but hopefully this sort of big picture overview, I know it doesn't get all the details, I know it misses some pieces, but hopefully this big picture overview gives you a sense of how the denominational ministries function, and particularly for us in Canada, this sense of us having full direction and control over the ministries that we do and the hopes and dreams that we want to accomplish together as churches in Canada.